Many episodes of Star Trek go into the PG-13 and even the R-rated range because of the sexuality and the scantily clad green and her chicks that Kirk tries to date. But this one, I think it can be safe to say it's safe for the whole family, unless you're a fan of non-grain products. Trouble with Tribbles. Now, this is very interesting. I think it's one of the first references to Canada on the series because Spock mentions the grain that's used in the show that's coming from Canada. Now, this is the 15th episode of the second season of Star Trek, considered by many a top three episode, only sitting the edge of Forever and probably Amok Time would be ahead of it. Now, written by David Gerald and directed by Joseph Bevney, was first broadcast on December 29th, 67, so it was a New Year's Eve week favorite. In this comic episode, the Starship Enterprise visits a space station that soon becomes overwhelmed by rapidly reproducing small furry creatures called tribbles, who seem to be born pregnant, according to Dr. McCoy, which is to many a time saver. It was claimed the short story Pigs is Pigs by Ellis Parker Butler inspired the episode, but strong similarity to sections of the novel The Rolling Stones led the producers to seek a waiver from author Robert A. Heinlein. The original episode has had several produced follow-ups. The first, More Troubles, was originally pitched for the show's third season, but was not accepted. It was ultimately produced for Star Trek, the animated series. To celebrate the 30th anniversary of Star Trek in 96, the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode, Trials and Tribulations, used digital techniques to insert the Deep Space Nine actors into the events of the Trouble with Tribbles. Now, this is the first time in Star Trek that the Klingons became comedic after being so violent and so dangerous for numerous episodes. Now, in this one, the Enterprise is summoned to Deep Space Station K7 by Undersecretary Niles Barris to guard a shipment of quadrotriticale grain. Captain James Kirk is annoyed at Barris's use of a high-priority distress call for a seemingly trivial matter and complies minimally. The Enterprise crew enjoys shore leave on the station, as does the crew of the Klingon ship under the command of Captain Koloth. Interstellar trader Cyrano Jones arrives with goods for sale, among them purring balls of fluff called tribbles. When Lieutenant Uhura becomes enamored by the animal, he gives one to her, who brings it aboard the Enterprise. Jones is hoping that with Uhura showing it is going to help sales. Little does he know. On both the Enterprise and the station, the tribbles began reproducing rapidly. They make soothing, cooing noises and are loved by the Enterprise crew, and they like Spock. However, tribbles jump and screech in disgust when around Klingons. On the station, a drunken Klingon insults the Enterprise, her crew, and her captain. The resulting brawl between humans and Klingons forces Kirk to cancel shore leave. Barris is terrified of possible Klingon interference with the Grain Project and suspects Jones of being a Klingon agent, even though Spock and Kirk said, he's just a jack-of-all-trades scam artist. Now, Dr. Leonard McCoy and Spock are concerned that the increasing number of tribbles threatens to consume all the food aboard the Enterprise. Kirk realizes that the tribbles on the station could be a threat to the grain shipment, primarily when he orders these chicken sandwich and coffee and the serving of tribbles comes up. He was too late, however. When he opens an overhead storage compartment, he is buried chest deep in grain-gorged tribbles. Spock and McCoy discovered that many of the tribbles in the hold are dead or dying, suggesting the grain has been poisoned. Now, what the Klingons were planning to do to use the grain to poison the people that the planet was being sent to. Now, infuriated, Barris vows to see Kirk punished for the fiasco, while an equally outraged Koloth demands an apology from Kirk for what he considers disrespectful treatment of his crew. Their arguments are cut short, however, when Barris' assistant Aaron Darvin walks into the room and the tribbles react as if in the presence of a Klingon. McCoy reveals Darvin to be a Klingon disguised as a human, and Darvin confesses to having poisoned the grain because he wants to get away from the tribbles who drive him nuts. Cyrano is ordered to remove the tribbles from the station, a task that Spock estimates will take 18 years, or he may face charges for transporting dangerous life forms. Just before the Klingons depart, all the tribbles aboard the Enterprise are transported onto the Klingon vessel by Chief Engineer Scott, wearing these words, "There'll be no tribble at all." So a very enjoyable episode, but we're going to get in some of the positives and negatives in my mind of the episode. So Roddenberry and the other people on the series, I think, had a decision to make. They had to weaken one of the two major antagonists. They couldn't weaken the Romulans. They could probably weaken the Klingons, because the Klingons were just like the humans, but with a little bit more anger in them. Because the Klingons would eventually become fast friends of the Federation, because they have the same survival instinct. It just happened that Klingons at the time were going about it the right way. Now, the episode was the first pro work of writer David Gerrold, and went through a variety of drafts before it reached the screen. Because these typewriters use a less common, smaller size font, an approved screenplay version needed to be reduced by 20 pages before filming. Now, Gerrold had been a fan of science fiction since he was a child. When Star Trek was first broadcast, he was concerned that it might turn into something similar to Lost in Space, which he described as a one full-color hour of trash reaching into millions of homes. His first story outline was sent into Star Trek after his agent suggested he waited until the shows started to air, under the theory that the show might drop an existing episode in favor of a better script. The story was entitled Tomorrow Was Yesterday, not to be confused with the Star Trek episode Tomorrow Is Yesterday, and concerned the Enterprise coming across a generation ship which had degenerated into a two-tier class system. His agent received a rejection letter from producer Gene Coon, dated October 3rd, 1966. The letter stated that the outline was by no means inadequate. It is, as a matter of fact, very adequate. It went on to say that it would require a budget larger than that available to television, but have made a good film treatment. Coon offered to meet with Gerrold and explain what they were looking for, because they were not purchasing scripts at the time. Now, he did numerous treatments after a while, but his fifth story was called The Fuzzies. The idea was based on the introduction of rabbits in Australia in 1859, whose population grew extraordinarily fast, owing to a lack of predators. Now, as the script was getting developed, he turned around the first draft script of it in 2 days and a half, and both Coon and associate producer Robert Justman gave feedback on the plot. Now, many things were put in and taken out. Now, at the time, the fictional Quetzalcoatl, real word atrazine, degrade, and triticale was a fairly new invention at the time of the episode. Now, there's been some discussion as to how this all came together. It would take a whole different podcast. But Nichelle Nichols had said that she had never seen the script change so much, but stay the same. It has been revised numerous times. Now, the use of live animals to represent the tribbles was immediately ruled out. According to Gerrold's account, similar to Heinlein's flat cats was not yet discovered. The inspiration for forming the tribble instead came of a fluffy keyring owned by one Holly Sherman. Sherman's plan for this episode was subsequently named after her. Now, the tribbles have been very valuable through the years. They were individually sold by Jacqueline Cabaret. She was paid $350 to sell 500 tribbles from synthetic fur and stuffed them with foam rubber. 6 ambulatory tribbles were made using the mechanics of walking toy dogs, which were quite noisy and required the dialogue to be looped during editing. Now, some of the original tribbles are very expensive. They come up in an auction. I've seen them go as high as $1,000. Now, filming began the second week of August 1967. 3 temporary sets and a portion of corridor were constructed for specific use in the episode. Now, Pevney was pleased with the outcome of the shoot, calling the episode a delightful show from beginning to end. In addition to directing, Pevney also sourced some of the parts to create the tribbles and was directly responsible for the casting of Stanley Adams as Sierra Nova Jones. He had pushed for the episode to be made. As he recalled, there was some resistance at the time about making a comedy-style episode. And of course, later on, a piece of the action became comedic as well. Now, the special effects design for the K-7 space station, the episode was based on the actual 1959 design by Douglas Aircraft Corporation for the space station. Now, William Campbell, who played one of the Klingons, had previously appeared in Star Trek as Trelane in the episode The Squire of Gothos. At various points, Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry claimed it was his intention to bring back Koloth during the 3rd season of the original series as Kirk's recurring Klingon adversary. Some internal production documents contradict the story. Although Koloth returned to Star Trek the animated series, Campbell did not voice the role. He returned to the role in 1994 for an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine entitled Blood Oath. Now, at the time of the casting, William Shatner had just finished filming the ABC sitcom The Patty Duke Show. He described himself not as a fan and had not read any science fiction since 48. He thought that the role of Niles Barris was just another guest spot and considered Barris to be a rather stuffy bureaucrat, not the most appealing character. He did not remember the character's name, only learning it when he first attended a Star Trek convention at a hotel near LA, as the fans called it out when he entered the lobby. He was later cast in the role of Bajoran musician Verini in a DS9 episode Sanctuary. Now, Walt Bissell, who played the station and the manager Lurie, was better known at the time as the cast role of Lieutenant General Kirk in the ABC science fiction TV series The Time Tunnel. Now, Michael Pataki, who portrayed the Klingon Korax, went to play Karnas in Star Trek The Next Generation, first season episode, too short a season. Charlie Brill portrayed a Klingon agent Arne Darvin, and Brill had previously been a sketch comedy artist with his wife Mitzi McCall and had appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles made their first appearance. Now, initial fan reaction to the episode was mixed. It was popular with the general public. Critical response to the episode was positive, and it was nominated for a Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation, which instead went to the other Star Trek episode, The City on the Edge of Forever. It has since been included in several Best of episode lists and features, including as part of Best of DVD collection, alongside 3 other episodes. It is also released as part of the Season 2 DVD box set. Now, The Trouble with Tribbles was first broadcast in the States on December 29, 1967. The initial fan reaction was undecided, but the episode connected better with the mass market. This effect was later explained in 2012 when Jordan Hoffman on StarTrek.com described The Trouble with Tribbles as quite possibly the first episode of Star Trek many ever saw. It entered popular culture and remained well known to the public outside of the Star Trek community. Now, New York Times described the scene in which Kirk and the Tribbles in a grain container as one of the best remembered moments of the series because the Tribbles, dead and dying, are falling on his head. Could someone shut that door? The Time magazine ranked The Trouble with Tribbles as the 6th best moment in Star Trek. IGN ranked it as the 5th best episode of the original series. Now, the episode was nominated for Best Dramatic Presentation again at the Hugo Awards. Now, The Trouble with Tribbles was one of the first episodes to receive an official release by Paramount. In 1980, it was released on VHS on a 2-episode tape alongside Let That Be Your Ballast Battlefield. It was re-released in 91 as part of the first full-season release on VHS. Re-released in 93 on Laserdisc, and in 98, a Talking Tribble gift set was released, which contained both The Trouble with Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations on VHS. The first DVD release was in 2000, when all the original series were released in individual releases of 2 episodes per disc. Now, as it stands in 2023, it's still one of the most popular episodes of Star Trek. And it makes a lot of sense because there's a lot going on. You have the Kirk dynamic, the Spock dynamic, you got McCoy, and you get Scotty, who only starts the fight after the insulting ship and not the captain. So it all works together. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to bring the Star Trek podcast to you. If you like what we're doing here, we're an original series podcast. Give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And as we like to say in Northern New Brunswick, no tribbles, no troubles. Have a good one. Bye.